Hello and welcome to the North Bank podcast, where tonight I'm joined by Chris. Hello, Chris.
Just me, I'm afraid.
Just you. It was better than just me.
Yeah, well, you did send me a message saying I would do it on my own, but I couldn't work out where the record button was. So
this is true. This is true. No Steph this evening, but he has sent me a couple of mini novels to read out regarding the Fulham game and also the Monaco Champions League game on Wednesday. So here we are, Chris. What are we?
Where do we start?
24 hours plus after the Fulham match. How are you feeling?
Well, frustration. Obviously, I think that's what encapsulates it for everyone, really, a sense of frustration for several reasons. I'm sure we'll dig into them. But yeah, it hasn't shifted either. I'm feeling even more frustrated today, if anything.
Yeah, I concur with that. Do you think that's more about the league state than the game state?
I think it's initially about the game in the, if only, but then you sort of zoom out a bit after the game and start looking at patterns, trends, maybe that game was a microcosm of. That's my take on it now, is like, okay, so what did we see yesterday that has occurred recently and has cost us? Yeah,
I mean, I'm a bit torn because in the WhatsApp group that we were chatting in, I felt we were playing okay. We weren't ceding any chances. We were clinical on their part that they scored their only attempt on goal in 10-11 minutes, and so that kind of reinforced their kind of 5-4-1 formation pretty much whether we had the ball or not. We didn't give up many chances at all, so we controlled that. I know there's benign possession, which is Steph's probably screaming at his phone now listening to this. Yeah, absolutely, and certainly in the first half. I thought the second half we were a lot better. However, just to give you one match stat really, I think is, and I'm sure we've all seen it or heard it mooted since the game finished, is the XG. So the overall XG for Fulham was 0.14. The overall XG for us was 1.93. So we dominated that. However, now we scored from a set piece. Partey missed an absolute sitter from a set piece. I don't know how he contrived to miss that, but anyway, you take away the set piece XG and our XG is 0.3 from open play. That's poor, considering if we go back to the team news, our attacking players were unimpacted. Okay, technically unimpacted by the injury issues we had. However, what do you think of the starting 11, in particular the starting back line? Partey at right back, Timber at left back, Kivior and Saliba in the middle. I did post to the group that, I never want to see Partey at right back. And this is not against him per se, to be fair. Defensively, he was fine.
I think we've all agreed, and so many other people I've spoken to, other pods I've heard, are all of the same mind that when you tinker that much and cause that much disruption, just because you're kind of slightly reticent to use someone like, Miles Lewis-Skelly at left back in order to leave Timber there, in order to leave Partey in his preferred central midfield position, it's just too much of a disruption.
See, I don't have an issue necessarily with him defensively. I think where we miss out hugely is what White and Timber offer going forward. And it's maybe no surprise that Saka did have one of his quieter games, as did Ødegaard. And I think they were missing that, the third member of that little triangle of possession, attacking sense. And we know we're so strong down the right-hand side. And so Arteta, he didn't just weaken our midfield by removing Partey from it, you could argue, but by not playing Timber at right back, he's compounded that initial issue by impacting us going forward. And the fact that we created nothing almost from open play says it all. I think, let me read out one of Steph's contributions. It's thanks to a guy called Billy Carpenter. And this is what he says. I'll read it word for word as Steph has sent it to us. On Fulham, and this was written in March following defeat away to Porto. To summarise, the way to beat a mid-block is make the most of set pieces. Now, I'll ask you later whether you think we're playing for set pieces, whether we're relying upon them a little bit too much. So make the most of set pieces, have really good players, draw opposition across, then switch play quickly, exploit space between backline and keeper, have wide players drop deeper so another can underlap space created. Have bold centre-back step forward to pass through. We could have done all those things better, but league state making the 2 points drop seemed more damaging. Fulham were disciplined, took their early chance, meaning they could double down on frustrating us. We broke the deadlock with a set piece, Kelsa Breeze. We could be better. Selection, injury depth, execution, result overshadowing performance. While we can start to think about squads in terms of January transfers, the bar is still high, long way to go. It is actually a bit more upbeat from Steph than I was anticipating after the Fulham game. I'm sure he's still frustrated about the drop points. I did see it as the trickiest of our games in this fixture. And the thing that really just heightens my frustration is that we still should have won. We still should have won. So do you, just on the set piece thing, do you think that we are, I don't know, not over-reliant on them, but maybe we're focusing them a little bit at the expense of our open play attack? I mean, I don't know if I believe that at all. I'm just posing the question, I guess.
I think it'd be incredibly difficult to play a game where you're trying to contrive set pieces. I think subconsciously, maybe they're thinking, well, when they're in a position where they could get a corner, for example, that you're thinking in the back of your mind, well, it wouldn't be a bad thing if I just knocked it against the defender and we got a corner. I just think it's incredibly difficult to have that in mind as a tactic. Go out there and earn some set pieces. I think by virtue of being in the final third and making lots of attacking moves, you get that by default. So for me, I don't think it's a conscious thing. I think the conscious thing is being in the position to create goal scoring chances. And if set pieces come as a result of that, happy days.
I'm just trying to look to see how many corners we had in the Fulham game. I haven't written it down. I know we had 13-0 against Manchester United, which would suggest that we maybe are pushing for corners a little bit more than the opposition.
We had 6 to their 0.
Okay. But I mean, I don't. Have you got the possession stats there, by the way?
Well, I have, and it's eerily similar to the United game in that we had 36 touches in their box to their 3, which is, I think United had 6 to our 36. And similar to the United game, a lot of that came in the second half. You know, that in terms of the more penetrative play. The possession stats, 66 to their 34, roughly.
And again, game state might have dictated that with regards to their early goal.
Oh, for sure.
And we had 12 shots to their 2. Interestingly, on the open goal XG, the open play XG. Listen to this. In only one of our last 8 matches, we created an open play expected goal. So one open play expected goal in one of our last 18 matches, 3 of the 15 Premier League games this season, and that's that places us 13th in the overall league of creating open play chances, open play goals. So that's not good. Now, Ødegaard's missed a lot of those games, so that might provide a logical reasoning behind that. And thankfully, we are so good at set piece goals, and we are scoring them, and they're part of the game. And I'm, set piece, ole ole, I'm all on board, not a problem at all. But, and I've heard this phrase, marginal games. This was a game of margins. We are so reliant upon a set piece goal when we are not creating these chances. So if you don't score your set piece goal, or your delivery's off, or whatever, now we did score a set piece goal, then it puts a lot of pressure on any one of those chances that you get. Now, Partey should have scored. Okay, that would have been another set piece goal, but he should have scored. Martinelli should not have been caught offside. It is in footballing terms, I agree with Paul Merson, it was criminal. He's looking across the line. I know VAR was not brought in to disallow a goal like that because it was so marginal, but we scored a marginal goal earlier on in the game, in the same game. It would have been similar margins in our favour for the goal, for Saliba's goal, as against us for the Martinelli offside. But I'm angry at Martinelli for getting caught offside. It's symptomatic of his season or his last 2 seasons. You want players. It's frustrating. Jesus.
Oh.
he had. Let me get this right. He had 8 touches of the ball in 20 minutes. He completed 1 of 6 passes. In 21 Premier League appearances now, he hasn't scored. And he had that opportunity where we had a little exchange on WhatsApp where I questioned whether he was actually still a footballer based on the way he performed. But in particular, I don't know, was he waiting for the keeper to come out and hit and clatter him? But it was a great opportunity, a Rice little clip ball, and he was in front of goal. It was like, kick. That's what I said, didn't I? I said, good, he's supposed to be a striker, strike the bloody ball. And you said something about...
I said sort of diplomatically, he's a forward, not a striker.
And I said he barely looks like a footballer.
Yeah.
Or something.
Fair point on that showing.
And look who's come off the bench. Are we relying on him off the bench? Martinelli off the bench? Trossard's form's gone off the bench. Sterling didn't even get on when we need a goal. When Ranieri came on, but I'm not sure how effective he was. No. I don't remember much of what he did. We've got January coming up. I think our forward line, which Arteta he's done nothing with really. Havertz was signed as a midfielder. I know we had these conversations this time last year and we found form and Havertz kicked on and so on, and that's all good and well, but...
I hate to be the kind of I told you so, but when Havertz was in that rich vein of form, I did say it will take a few games of him not providing or scoring. I know he got an assist yesterday, but he is not an out-and-out striker. We know that. He's just performed exceptionally well last season. We do need someone of more of a striker, out-and-out striker profile. On Martinelli, by the way, I think, and this is one that's been rumbling for ages, this kind of plateau of form. I just fear that there's a ceiling that we've kind of hit in terms of his in-game decision-making. We know that he's fast. We know he works hard. We know he gets back and defends. But he did it a couple of times. The offside was the most egregious, but there was one time as well where he was running with it and he just made the decision to run into 3 defenders. He just took it in and lost it immediately. And you think that's what, and I know we hold Saka up because he's exceptional, but even if he hasn't got the same skill set as Saka, we need the same kind of intelligence on that other side to just keep the ball more efficiently, use it more efficiently. It doesn't have to be scoring all the time, but just be more efficient. And that's what worries me, is that we've kind of hit a ceiling with him that maybe we can't get through.
Trossard provides that greater efficiency with the ball, but a different
different profile. Yeah, very different.
I mean, Martinelli put a great cross in for Saka to score.
He did.
Unfortunately, he was offside prior to that.
And also there was a cross, I think it was Rice that whipped it in. And it's the kind of goal that we never score, which is, if you imagine the ball's crossed in from the kind of corner of the 18-yard box into that corridor of uncertainty, they like to call it. And we never seem to attack the ball in that situation. You know, the sort of thing I'm talking about, where you have a striker who just chances and just runs at it the second the ball's whipped in, and it just sailed across and no one went for it.
I think Rice put in one from a free kick, and it wasn't high, it was low, and it was Thomas Partey was the nearest one to it, who kind of lunged quite late for it. But again, it was a superb ball in, and a more clinical thinking striker,
yes,
or a forward player would be on the end of that. I did look at. I mean, we could bring what's his face back from Saudi, Ivan Toney.
Yeah.
I don't know how he's getting on, but I did look at Isak, because what's frustrating me is players like Zinchenko played about 5 minutes of football and got injured again. I mean, for God's sake, we need to get shot. We need to get rid of. But we've picked up a great defender in Calafiori who can't stay fit, and that's frustrating because that cost us. I think Kivior was culpable for the goal we conceded. I don't understand why. Yeah, he got caught and then he didn't track him and he got caught out. Saliba could have been a little bit more proactive, but was caught on his heels a little bit. It was
Jimenez doesn't score that goal. He could be out there now trying to score that goal again. So credit to them as well in that sense.
It was a lovely strike. I don't know. I don't blame. I don't have any or lodge any of the blame with Raya for that either. But just because of the power he hit the ball. When I saw it first, I thought Raya should have got closer to it. But then when you see the replay, you're thinking, no, that was just a powerfully hit cross shot that was quite unerring inside the far post. But he should never have had that free run on it. It was so easy. It was too easy to happen. I looked at Isak because he's someone that strikes me as being quite injury prone. That's my perception. So going back 5 seasons of this, 4 full seasons, he played 34 games in 2021, scored 17 goals. He played 32 games in this is just league games. 21-22, he played 32 league games, only scored 6 goals. In 22-23, he played 22 games, scored 10 goals. So that was obviously an injury hit season. That was his last season in Spain. He joined Newcastle a few games into the 23-24 season, but he played 30 games, so that was probably 30 out of 35 available, scored 21 goals, and he's played 13 games this season and scored 6. So there's only 2 games he hasn't been available for Newcastle this season, so that's not that bad. So his injury record is not as bad as I feared because, I don't know, can you imagine how frustrating it would have been had Henry been injured a lot? You know what quality player you've got, but what's the point when he's not available? It's, so I want Isak in January. Obviously, that's easy done, surely. I don't know what the problem is. We've not got a director of football. Can't we spend more money?
Yeah. Well, the teacher's away, kind of thing.
Yeah. So I mean, it is frustrating. I feel deflated. Chelsea won, so they've closed the gap on Liverpool. City drew, which was nice, but it would have been a great week. But it turned out to be a great week for Liverpool, and they didn't even play. Yeah, a great weekend. Sorry, for Liverpool, they didn't even play. So I don't know. I mean, look, it's not title ending.
No, like I said, I'm trying to look at it from a sort of broader. Okay, what's the trend here? And it's too early to talk about whether we're in the title race or whatever. But it does need some kind of augmentation. It does need a kind of a shift, I think, in order to kick us on. And even with our full strength team, there are occasions where we look a little bit stodgy. So I don't know.
Well, players in their position as a starting point. Do you know what I mean? We had 2 left backs on the bench. Now, granted, Tierney starting that game would have been a bit of a push, but Miles Lewis-Skelly, he's done really well at left back. And again, what's the point in having him if you're not going to start him, or what's the point in having him in the squad if you're not going to actually utilise him? You're not going to get experience. Far better to gain experience with actual minutes rather than just watching other players play. And it would have kept Timber in his
preferred position.
Not just his preferred position, but our most dangerous flank.
Yeah, no, what you said earlier makes a lot of sense in having that developing relationship that he's got with Ødegaard and Saka. It would have made a lot more sense to try and keep that together. And just going back to Martinelli, it's a sort of mitigating factor that he's never had that on the left-hand side. That we've been chopping and changing. We've got Marino now coming in. Rice sometimes plays that position in the left 8. That he's never had that continuity. And sometimes it looks like we're just kind of thinking, okay, the left-hand side is a bit of pace for Martinelli to, give it to him and see what he can do. Whereas the right is where we kind of craft these well kind of embedded routines. So, I don't know. It doesn't excuse him for his poor decision-making, but he certainly hasn't had the same kind of level of continuity on that side. Yeah,
definitely some mitigation there. We also have a lack of pace up front, real out and out pace. And I noticed that in the first half against Fulham. Fulham were playing kind of relatively high line at various points in that first half, but so what? There was no threat. I think Rice got in. Did Rice get in once? And the ball over the top was just agonisingly out of reach. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, did this in a normal season where we haven't lost games at Newcastle and Bournemouth prior, where Liverpool aren't just like on a tear. A point away at Fulham is not a disaster by any means. I mean, we lost there last season, so we're up on last season's tally. But I need Liverpool. I look back on it and think if Liverpool start losing a couple of games, then it's okay, fair enough. We're still in with a shout until it gets serious in February time. But again, I think like what you said, there's a lot of familiar failings with that performance, that lack of a clinical edge. I watched the Chelsea Spurs game yesterday. I'm not saying for a second that we should have been in for Jadon Sancho. I'm not at all. But I wouldn't call him I'd call him a squad player. And he banged in a 25-yarder into the top corner. And I'm like, okay, where's our
difference maker? Yeah,
out of nothing. Saka aside, we haven't got anybody who would do that. I mean, Rice has got that in his locker, but I can't remember a shot he's had. Partey scored a couple from outside the area, notably against Spurs, which was nice.
I think what you'll find is that Arteta being Arteta and all his minions with their laptops and stats is that they'll tell you that you don't often score goals like that. And that if you're going to base your kind of tactics around having someone who can whack them in top bins every so often, that's not a sustainable model. I know I'm just playing devil's advocate.
But in a tight game that.
I agree. You just need someone who's got the ability.
Yeah, last season, 5 games we failed to score in, and that cost us. Okay, we've improved that a little bit perhaps with the set piece prowess, but we're just not creating. 0.3 creation, open play XG yesterday. 0.3. Like, you're not going to win games if that's what you're producing. We've only got up as far as a 1 XG once in our last 8 league games. That's something's wrong. Something's not working. Right, okay, look, let's leave that there. I'm trying to lift myself, but I'm failing. So maybe looking ahead to Monaco in the Champions League. So look, we'll have a little breather, and we'll come back for a really quick look ahead to Monaco on Wednesday. Well, welcome back, everyone. I'm sure you're all delighted to be here. We're looking ahead to the Plucky Cup. Okay, that won't mean anything to anybody, but the Champions League, otherwise known as the Plucky Cup, returns on Wednesday. We're home to Monaco. A bit of background to Monaco. They were riding high in the Champions League grouping. We are now above them by virtue of goals scored. Goal difference. It's goal difference probably.
Difference, yeah.
I think there's 6 of us on 10 points. We're 7th on 10 points. They're 8th on 10 points. Last time out in the Champions League, they lost at home 3-2 to Benfica, but they did play the last 35 minutes with 10 men. Not many household names, but there is one from an Arsenal perspective that's quite interesting, and that's Balogun. So what's your narrative on that one? They've got Minamino, who was formerly of Liverpool. And Bolo's their striker, seems to score goals, and after that I'm out really. There's a couple of other names I kind of recognise, but I couldn't be bothered writing them down. They are 3rd in Ligue 1. I think they're about 6 or 7 points behind PSG. They're level with Marseille. They're 5 behind PSG, and last time out in the French league they beat Toulouse 2-0 at home on Saturday, and Bolo scored one of their goals there. Let me read Steph's contribution and strap yourselves in. It's a long one. Right, so team selection, he's basing this on what he's heard from Sportsmo. So Zinchenko and Gabriel, major doubts, late fitness test for both. Calafiori knee injury recurrence, which for me it was the groin that he signals when he was substituted. But anyway, whatever, it could be his knee as well, I don't know. White, Tomiyasu long term. So Steph has gone for a starting 11 of Raya, Partey, Saliba, Kivi or Timber, so as you were from Fulham. In midfield, he's got Rice, Marino and Erdegaard. Then he's got Saka, and as a little, by way of not by way of qualification for Saka, but just as a little addendum. Saka scored and assisted in 4 different Champions League games, most of any player since the start of last season. Involved in 8 goals, 5 scored, 3 assisted at home in the Champions League. So he's again posting ridiculous numbers, completely almost under the radar to other fans. Even Arsenal fans would kind of take for granted the numbers he posts. So that's Saka on the right, Martinelli on the left. No player has created more chances from ball carries in the Champions League this season. Only Musiala has higher XA. Is that X assist? Maybe that's X assist. I don't know. Sorry, Steph.
Expected assists. Yeah.
Expected assists. And then Havertz through the middle. Most high intensity presses in Champions League. 179. Okay, so that's his team selection, right? He's gone into a lot of detail on his score prediction, but we'll leave that for a minute. What about you? How are you feeling about the game anyway? Are you going?
No, I'm not going because I've got a 5-a-side followed by.
For God's sake, man!
It's our Christmas. We go out every Christmas for the 5-a-side guys, so I'm going to have to give my seat up, and I'll be furtively watching the game, obviously under the table in the restaurant. In a way, it feels like almost like a bit of a relief to be playing a different competition after the Fulham game. It just feels like an opportunity to play in a game where we haven't felt maybe the sort of same intensity, in that it's this weird league format. We're doing quite well in it. I feel like we're going to qualify in the top 8. I feel like Monaco are probably a team that don't travel as well in this competition. So I just feel like let's just go and express ourselves. I think it's going to be the same team that Steph has suggested. I had that down exactly the same. I would have liked to have swapped out the odd player, maybe start someone else up front, like Jesus, when he was on form, had a really good...
The artist formerly known as footballer.
The forward. Last season, he was really good in the Champions League. Do you remember?
Yeah.
He's actually performing really well. But because no one seems to be in form in those positions, it just feels a bit, well... What are you going to do? It's got to be Havertz as the starter, and then maybe you bring on Sterling for Saka if you want to rest Saka at a certain point in the second half. It just feels like, we've said this before, too many players out of form where you would otherwise like to rely on them.
Yeah, I think this is the first time this season that all 3 of us have gone for the same starting 11. Considering we've got the number of absentees that we have. But yeah, I've gone for the same. I'd love Nwaneri to start, but he won't. I'd love Miles Skelly to start at left back. I think there's not... I say this, and this may be a little bit patronising to Monaco, but reading their team, we should be comfortably dealing with Monaco at home. We just should. Simple as that. But they will be difficult to break down because they're not coming to beat us. They're coming to shut up shop. A draw for them would be fantastic. Mm-hmm. And so even more of a reason for a left back to play at left back and Timber to play at right back. And at home, is Myers Lewis Skelly going to be under that amount of pressure as a defender? And he's already demonstrated that he's got an eye for a attacking play as well. So I'd love to see him start at left back.
Well, he's a natural midfielder, so he's been repurposed as a left back.
He's following Saka's trajectory. Saka was also converted back to a full-back initially, wasn't he? So I don't know. But so anyway, yeah, same team. Let me read through Steph's score prediction. Now he's taken my role as stats boy, which is great because I read all this and I thought, well, I don't need to look anything up. So he's got these stats from footystats.org. Arsenal, Monaco, both won 60%. Monaco scored 12 to Arsenal's 8, but conceded 7 to Arsenal's 2. From BBC Sport, only Barca and Munich have won more Champions League home games since the start of last season. Arsenal had the joint most clean sheets at home at that time. Arsenal averaged 2.6 goals in Europe at home since they last drew a blank against Barcelona in 2016. And from who scored? 11.6 shots per game, average, concede 10.6 shots per game, currently underperforming XG in the Champions League by 2.42. I don't know whether that's us or Monaco, to be fair. I'm not reading that. So in terms of score prediction, Heart, on the plus side, it would be typical to look somewhat toothless against Fulham to then go and put 2-3-4 past Monaco. Steady on, Steph. However, they have a decent record against British sides, albeit pre-pandemic, are on a decent run in this year's Champions League and could be facing us at a time when our squad looks creaky. So, to get to the point, score prediction. With his head, a 2-1 win. With his heart / positive narrative, 3-0. And he has to get this in because he wouldn't be Steph if he didn't. With his heart negative narrative, he's going 1-1. So he's covering all bases apart from a defeat, which I suppose I should give him credit for. What's your predicted score?
I'm going to be quite bullish on this one and say 3-0.
Well, we haven't gone for the same scoreline, although I suppose you've one of your scores is echoed by Steph. I've gone for a 3-1 home win.
He's covering his bases by giving you 5 different scores.
Yeah, well, he's got 2-1, 3-0 or 1-1. So
you're 3-1.
I'm 3-1. Again, I just find it really difficult to ever predict us to nil. I don't know why. It
hasn't happened a lot recently, unfortunately. You know, our record of keeping clean sheets has been pretty dismal recently.
Well, Forest and United
yeah,
kept clean sheets against them.
We did, but away particularly, I think was the record was 6-7 on the spin now, where we haven't kept a clean sheet. And we are not as formidable defensively, and it's not a surprise given that we haven't been able to keep a settled back line pretty much all season.
Well, so I wish I'd written it down. In 15 league games, he's had how many different back four? Was it 9 different back four selections?
Yeah.
I mean, we had 5 defenders out injured for Fulham. And so fair enough. But again, yeah, that's fine. And it's difficult, but play Timber at right back, because it's not just defensively you're missing out there. It's in an attacking sense when we are creating so little from open play. And I think that was a big issue. And
it gives Miles Lewis-Skelly a chance to bed in as well. And on a game like tomorrow where, it's not like the stakes aren't high, but it's an ideal game to blood him. It's the Nwaneri principle, isn't it? You know, we were crying for him to be blooded while Ødegaard was out. And in retrospect, I bet Mikel wished he'd given him more minutes.
Well, ironically, he came on for Ødegaard with 10 minutes to go yesterday, and I think my response was, "Oh, bloody marvellous," and didn't just play him once when Ødegaard was unavailable. Make it make sense to me. But anyway, Miles Lewis-Skelly at home against Monaco. Come on, it's think about it. If Calafiori is remains as injury prone as he started his Arsenal career, then there's a lot of games in this season for Miles Lewis-Skelly. Kivior isn't a left back. Zinchenko's unreliable, even more unreliable than Calafiori, and has been for quite a while. Tierney, bless him.
Tomiyasu.
So it's Miles Lewis-Skelly's got a great opportunity, because he could bed himself in as first backup left back if Calafiori's unavailable. Obviously, Ben White would play at right back and Timber would go to the left, probably everybody fit, perhaps. Although I don't know, I think probably Timber stays at right back and Calafiori plays at left back. I mean, I don't know. Be nice to have that quandary in March when they're all fit. I'm striking a very despondent tone again. I can't help it. I'm sorry. I've predicted us to win 3-1 and comfortably finish in the top 8 in this Champions League mega group and avoid those tricky playoffs against. We could be playing against PSG, Real Madrid, or AC Milan, or someone else down there as well. That's massive. Yeah. Anyway, so look. Anything else?
No, I think we just need a win to rid ourselves of this kind of the cloud of frustration that's hanging over us.
The malaise.
The good thing is games are coming thick and fast.
Well, we've got a home gimme on Saturday against Everton, haven't we? Come on.
Oh, don't say that. Daesh ball.
We're not going to get stuck on the toffees. No, we're not. Definitely
Please,
not.
please, God.
It'll be the confidence boost we all need. Can you imagine if
I'm
it's not?
clipping this. I'm clipping this and I'm throwing it in your face.
You can. I'm actually going 6 on Saturday, so let's see.
We'll review that, won't we, after the Monaco game?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, right. In that case, enjoy your five-a-side Christmas celebration on Wednesday.
Thank you.
Hopefully, Arsenal play their part and deliver us all a nice, easy, comfortable, inspiring, open play victory against Monaco. Thanks for listening. I hope I haven't sent you all off into a crisis and phoning, the Samaritans or something or whatever. It will get better. It will get better. It's darkest before dawn and all that. Anyway, we'll see you on the other side of the Monaco game where we look back at that and look ahead to Everton on Saturday. Cheers for listening. Bye.
Get well soon, Steph.
Indeed.
The North Bank, an Arsenal podcast. Subscribe, rate and review on your app and find us on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok at North Bank Pod. Email hello@thenorthbankafc.com and check out our website, thenorthbankafc.com. Produced by The Podcast Company. Yeah, because we're turning into a plucky cup team now, aren't we?
Listen, if that plucky cup is the Champions League, I'd take it. I'd take it.
And the winners of the 2025 Plucky Cup.
Plucky Cup. Arsenal.
Yeah.